Hi, this is Misha, and this is kind of a nerd out video on this gun here. We already have a video talking about it, and we even have it also in a Hungarian firearms history video. This is the TGI Tennessee gun FEG AMD65 carbine. Now in the first video I talk about the history of the AMD65 a bit, and I also talk about these as when they were sold and what a great deal they were. I kind of gloss over exactly how they were made because I really hadn't cared, but after doing this there was quite a long discussion on the forums about exactly how these came to be, and some interesting info came to light, and I thought we would just do this. Now this is a very nerdy video, so if that's not your thing, I understand. Thanks for at least popping in this far. There's just some odd questions about how these were done, and really no one at TGI has ever said for sure. Theories have ranged from, these are US kit builds, built in the US from kits on leftover Hungarian 80% receivers from FEG. Also, they could have been kit builds in the US on 100% Hungarian receivers from FEG that were single stack, and those receivers were around. There's also theories that these were simple, straightforward imports, either as rifles or carbines or pistols. No one really knows. I'm just going to share some evidence. I think it's interesting because we just don't know. Okay, so I'll take my mag out here because we'll need to do some disassembling. 20 round Tinker mag because they're cool. So the 80% receiver thing, I think it's pretty easy to dismiss this. For one thing, this is actually marked made in Hungary. Is it on this side or the other side? I can't remember. The receiver though is marked made in Hungary on this stamped steel part. Likewise, it has SA2000M on the underside here. What it does not have on the stamped part is a serial number. Yeah, it does have made in Hungary on this side. No serial on this side. No serial on this side. If this receiver was turned into a firearm under the law here in the USA, first off, it could not say legally made in Hungary on it. It kind of referred to the Arsenal SA space M7 receivers, the milled ones, that were brought over as 80%ers and then finished out by Arsenal Incorporated Nevada. They do not say Bulgaria on the receiver. Likewise with the Childers, the current receivers from Childers, they're brought over as 80% shells from Poland, but they can't legally, or at least they really shouldn't legally say made in a foreign country. Plus that would kind of be shooting themselves in the foot. Why would they put SA2000M on the bottom also if they were making it from 80%? That just does not make sense. They could, but no real reason. And if this were made into a rifle, firearm, even pistol receiver in the US, it should have an actual serial number on the stamped part. Every US gun, or every gun built on a US receiver, I should say, has a serial either on the side or on the underside somewhere, because when you do these in the USA, this is the gun part. However, with imports, for example, the Wasser, or any of the Arsenal stamped guns, the serial number is on the trunnion here, which is where it is on this gun. This is okay, I guess. This is how they do imports. It's kind of interesting, but on an import, they consider the trunnion part of the receiver, so they don't make them serialize the stamped part. It's actually the machined trunnion part. That's just how they do it. So that right there really knocks out the 80% receiver theory, and really even the 100%. Even if these receivers came in as 100% receivers marked made in Hungary, they should still have a serial on the receiver part itself, not just up here. So, okay, you could say maybe they were imported with the front trunnion already installed. All right, and I'll give you that. That's a possibility, except for one thing. The serial number here matches the one on the dust cover and both on this bolt group. So how would that happen? The chances of them using a trunnion over in Hungary that matches parts assembled here in the USA, that would take a heck of a lot of coordination. I guess it's technically possible, but it doesn't seem to really make sense. It's also been suggested, I think it was in an old, what was it? I can't remember. Truth About Guns, that's it. Truth About Guns article, that these were converted SA2000Ms, which was the single stack version that came in. Okay. The receiver is definitely marked SA2000M. No arguments there. However, we get back to the serial number. This serial format is more in keeping with the Hungarian military AMD65, just with the suffix added, than it does with the SA2000M serial range. In fact, this doesn't match up to SA2000M serials at all. In addition, the SA2000M had a 16-inch barrel, sometimes with a permanently attached muzzle brake. Sometimes not. Usually it did, though. And they usually had the standard length gas system. Yes, I know some of them had the shorter AMD length system, but most of them had the standard length here. The chances of them actually getting enough SA2000Ms and cutting them down to 12-inch barrels and having the short gas system, plus these barrels have military proofs on them. And why would they do it? Why would they cut a barrel from 16 inches, which could have a removable muzzle device, down to 12, only to weld on an extension? They would either cut them down to 14 and then permanently attach the muzzle brake, like what Century Arms did with their AMD65, or they would just cut them down to 16 and just thread them and give you a removable. Cutting them down to 12 just does not make sense. So these really appear to be original AMD65 barrels, and honestly AMD65 kits, because all the numbers usually match on these. There's a few oddballs where the numbers don't match, but there's problems with that. You could say, well, imported as a rifle, but it's been stated that FEG closed its firearms division in 2004, and these came in long after that. These were being imported at least 2008, if not 2009. Or at least sold, I shouldn't say imported. So what's going on here? I don't know for sure, but it doesn't seem like these were built from receivers here in the USA because of the whole serial thing. Also, if you look at the bolt carrier, the full auto trip has been machined off, which is something you typically find with imports. Also, we have a full auto bolting carrier, not one of the single stackers for the 2000Ms. But on the other hand, we have some problems with the receiver. For one, as has been correctly pointed out, the spot weld pattern for the rails here and here, they're awfully small and a little too deep for typical military. If you look at a pre-ban SA85M or even an SA2000M, they don't quite look right compared to what FEG was using. In addition, it's very clear that this was probably a single stack gun because there's finish taken off. It's shiny at the edges of the magwell, like where it was machined out. And we have the muzzle extension to deal with. This one has the two-piece style, which has the original. This on here, guys. Sorry, I'll put this back on. This has the original brake attached to this two-piece extension, which is then spot welded on to the barrel. There's another version of this gun that has a single-piece extension, which is very clearly Tapco, so American-made. I'd imagine this little extension here is American on this one. This gun has the more matte finish. It's all painted. There's another version that has a shinier paint finish, and these paint finishes are not very good. They're okay, and they can easily be touched up, but yeah. So these don't look to be factory FEG guns, plus FEG was supposedly out of business long before these came around. So what is going on? Who built these and how? I have no clear answers, I have no inside tracks, but I have a theory. I believe these were built by a third party in Hungary as pistols and imported into the USA and converted into carbines by Tennessee Gun. This would really fit all the known facts, at least most of them, 9 out of 10. So FEG's gone, but that's okay. There are other firearms manufacturers in Hungary, and also the FEG factory itself is still in business, it's just making household appliances, so it's still open. So I surmise that maybe a different division of FEG did a little moonlighting, I don't know, call it the lamp division, assembling these guns. Or a third-party factory did. I think they took old SA2000M receivers. They took nice condition AMD65 parts kits. They built them up into pistols. They did not have a buttstock. They were just square in the back here. That's another thing though, guys, sorry to sidetrack, but if these were converted SA2000M rifles, the rivet pattern would have had to have been redone drastically. This is a different rivet pattern, so I really don't think these were ever 2000M rifles as we know them. Anyway, I think they were built in as pistols with no stock. They probably couldn't have a forearm. Maybe they just shipped them with this handguard and no grip up front, or maybe they just put a wood, like a SA85M or 2000M standard handguard down here for import. And of course they had a 12-inch barrel, which is perfectly legal on a pistol. I think they built these from nice condition kits, made them legally a semi-auto, and shipped them over. These came in nice boxes. There's two styles. The ones I got, including this one, had a nice thing on them that said FEG, made in Hungary, and had the weapon's serial number. And it was exactly this size with the stock folded. Just enough room for this gun, a mag, and a cleaning kit. So it was a neat box. It worked well. This isn't far-fetched because think about the Romanian Wasser 1063. After 2005, the government did not allow parts kits to come in with barrels. The barrels had to be chopped up. So what Romania did, Cougar, they, instead of sending over kits to us to build, they would just basically rebuild their kits onto the semi-auto Wasser receiver. This is why a lot of the 1063s have trunnion dates well before imports actually started happening in 1997. You'll see them 60s, 70s, 80s dated. They basically just did kit builds over in Romania on new receivers. And they did it with the Dracos too, which was a pistol. And I think this is basically the Hungarian Draco. I think it came in with a 12-inch barrel, probably a tack welded muzzle nut. If this was a single stack receiver, that wouldn't have been required by law, but so much the better since the original SA2000M receiver was already single stack. I'm sure the government didn't mind that. There's a lot less restrictions on pistols. I think these came over that way. And import records from 08 and 09 that were actually part of the TGI court case where they were being sued and everything else later on, 2011, show that they imported firearms from Hungary and parts kits and other things. So they make a distinction between firearms and kits. I wonder if these were the firearms. I think the number was like 5,000 or maybe it was 2,500. It was a few thousand. The record showed them importing. And I can't think of any other gun that they would have brought over from Hungary. I mean, there's obviously semi-auto pistols and stuff, but definitely there were no AKs that could have been the contender for that. So, coming from Hungary. We don't know who put these together, but they were using FEG receivers and FEG original made AMD kits. Throw them together in Hungary. Okay, it's Hungarian made from FEG parts. We can kind of call it FEG. It's kind of playing a little game with the law, but it works. And again, maybe it was FEG, just their lamp factory or sewing machine factory. I mean, they could do spot welds. That would explain the different welds. Also, why there's no serial on the receiver and why all these serials match. So, they come in. Now, why TGI did not sell these as pistols, I don't know. I'm sure there was a reason. Maybe they just thought carbines would work better. They open up the magwell to take double stacks. They go ahead and cut out the back and install the buttstock. I would imagine the trunnion was already here. All they had to do was actually put the stock in itself. Then they attached the extension, either the two-piece or the one, and sold it. That wouldn't have been too hard for them to do. This would explain why most of the gun is finished out, but the magwell edges and also the edges of where the stock go on a lot of these are still in the white because that was the last things to be done. Also why the tack welds are kind of chintzy on a lot of these and why the muzzle device can be US made like the Tapco. So, I say all this is my theory. This fits the facts as I know them right now. But I really want a conversation in the comments, guys. Your own theories, and also please share your own guns and what you've observed with them. I know there are some variations, minor ones in these. The only modification I have made to this gun is I did install the side sling swivel. All the ones I've seen that were brand spanking new from TGI did not have a sling swivel. I've seen other guns with them. I kind of assume they were installed by the owners just like I did on this one, because it's a very easy thing to do. Either way, that does not take away from this gun. It's every bit as legitimate as, say, a Wasser 1063, Hungarian receiver, Hungarian barrel, Hungarian AMD kit that's usually all matching, working folding stock, takes high cap mags, even has the foregrip, which I would assume TGI installed here in the USA. That's why some of these grips on these are pretty ratty. Same with the stocks. If you look at these guns, it seems like these parts are usually in great shape, especially the barrel, but sometimes the foregrip and the buttstocks on these can be pretty chewed up, like the rubber and the paint. And this has kind of a different paint finish on it too from the rest of the gun. So these parts seem to have been added here in the USA, or at least added at a different time. But it doesn't take away. This is a Hungarian gun in its parts, even if its assembly was done later, because we can't have a full auto anyway. The original full auto receivers for Boatin and has been since the 60s for import. So this is a way to have a Hungarian receiver with a Hungarian barrel after the 05 ban. That's what I think happened. Unfortunately, TGI is long gone and never really said, so all we can work with are theories. If we learn new things, you guys share new info in the comments, or I find new things out on the forums, I'll be happy to do an update video. Like I said, this was just a nerdy look at a gun that I think is super cool, and they've always been underappreciated. And they're great shooters, very light recoil. It's actually a very effective muzzle brake, very light gun, but still very light recoil even with this wire stock. I definitely find this to be a more comfortable stock than, say, a typical underfolder. It's a good tight-fitting gun. It does have a little play in the magwell because of the conversion. There's a little front-back play that can't be helped because of the single stack style they used, but side-to-side is acceptable, about like a Wasser. Well, anyway, I appreciate you humoring me here and listening to my crazy theory. Please feel free to share your own. And if you didn't fall asleep, if you could like the video, that'd be great. And if you like AKs, please check out our other vids. And if you could, also subscribe. This is Misha, and please tune in again soon for hopefully not another too boring video. We'll catch you then.